Yeah, and like it does, and like there's nothing wrong with going back and like reading that and letting yourself feel good about it. Like like look at your accomplishment and like I'll do that. I'll go read over those. I'm like, man, that's so cool. Like it's so cool that it's connecting with people. And I don't think that's an egotistical thing. I think it's just look at the fruit of your labor. Look at what you're doing. Look at what you've done. Look at how it's impacting people. I think that's why, like in my office, like I have, well, the most important picture are the pictures of my little boy Kai, obviously, but to this side of the wall, off screen because it's not as important. But it's like my the degrees I got, like my masters and stuff. Like sometimes I'll just look at it and I'll be like, man, I did that. It's just like a nice mental reminder of like, okay, I can accomplish like pretty big tasks. I can do certain things because, especially as an achiever, I think you're always on to the next one. You're always, okay, now I got to do this. And then I did this. And it's like, remember your wins. I think that's really important. Remember where you won so that you can keep on winning because it's possible. So if you're always looking at like the next thing, and you didn't pay attention to any stuff, like you might move forward without realizing the strength that you already got. Like you have to remember your wins. So I think that's a really, obviously that's separate of marketing, but it's just I think it's a self-improvement technique.
Everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. And I have another author with me today with 7 books. I have 7 podcasts. Mark has 7 books, so we have that in common, the number 7 at least. Mark is here to talk about his recent book, Dads Kiss Your Sons. And Mark also helps authors. So if you're listening going, I need help, Dave. I need somebody who knows what they're doing. With 7 books, Mark can help you. So Mark, welcome to the podcast. Nice to have you here.
Hey, Dave. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Excited to talk to you and the listeners. That's you.
7 books, Mark. Okay, talk a little bit about the 7. Can you give us a kind of an overview of what you've done in the past? And then we're going to jump in more about your most recent book.
Definitely. Yeah. So my first 3 books sucked. They're terrible. They're embarrassing to look at. So, some people have debuts that hit New York Times bestsellers, but most don't. So keep that in mind. The standard is not that, to go to blow up right off the bat. So, my first 3, I've been writing since I was a kid. I would write short stories. I would write poetry, different things to, sort of escape my broken and shattered childhood. So, and then I started singing in a band and I did all the lyrics. So, well, most of them. I wrote about 95% of the lyrics for the band that I was in. It was a heavy metal band. And, so I was the lyricist there, and writing's always kind of been in me. So once the band kind of stopped and I went back to school to get my bachelor's degree, I was 22. I fell in love with reading. I read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. So that was like the first book I read in my adult life when I was like 22. So I wasn't really a reader up until that point. I read a few Goosebumps books when I was a kid, but I wasn't. Yeah, I guess it is kind of weird to say that. Like I have like 7 books, written, because I was never even really much of a reader. But like I said, I went back to school. I felt head over heels in love with reading. And writing was always part of me. That was always one of my giftings and something that I was passionate about and loved. So in like 2016, I wrote my first book. Was meant to be sort of a memoir and stuff like that. It looks kind of like a picture book, really. So it's sort of like these like big YouTubers, when you go back and watch their first videos from like maybe 8 years ago, it's like, wow, that's not great. So it's kind of similar. Or like bands that blow up, when you listen to like their first demos, it's like, no, it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
So that's my first at least like 3 books. And then I wrote, I started writing a blog like every day. So I sort of challenged myself with being able to write a blog every single day. And I wrote for like 106 days straight. Which is probably like nothing, because like you hear about these big bloggers out there that wrote like 2,000 or something crazy. So whatever, good for them. But I wrote these blogs every day, and it was always like nonfiction, sort of chase your dreams, self-improvement, self-development type of work, leadership that I was I was really focused on. And then I was like, you know what? It's cool to have this, obviously online format, but it would be cool to take this and like put it into a book format as well. So I took all the blogs I'd written and I actually ended up putting it into 2 books. So I had like Blog Book Volume 1, then Blog Book Volume 2. And I'm proud of those because that was, to me, that was, a higher caliber of writing. It was writing that I was, I thought I was capable of. So I felt good about that book. And then I wrote a book called Carriotor, and it was my first fiction story. So it was kind of like Angels and Demons meets Chronicles of Narnia. That's probably how I would best describe it. And I wrote that, and it was cool. It was a fun story. So those 3, I feel like, okay, that was fun. And then this book, Dads Kiss Your Sons, this has been for me my like coup de grace, right? Like my masterpiece, like I guess you could say. And the other books, I never really put any time into marketing them or anything like that, because when you're an author, you don't really care about the business side of it. You just want to write because that's what you do. You're a writer. But unfortunately, the way it works is if you want to continually write and write more, then you do have to pay attention to the business side of it to try to, you don't have to, but if you want to be successful in writing, there is a business side of it that you have to, acknowledge. And with this book, with Dads Kiss Your Sons, I just became a student of marketing and PR work, and I still am. And that's what I've been doing for at least the last 6 months, is just really studying this. And that's why I'm on, podcasts, and I did some TV with like CBS in Pittsburgh, and, just doing a lot of stuff like that because I've really invested. And it's not even like a ton of money investment. It's just a lot of time investment in studying and doing the right thing. So I really haven't spent a ton of money myself on marketing, but just, like I said, just studying a lot and what's the word I'm looking for? Executing, the strategies and things that I've learned. So sorry, that was a long answer to all the books.
Yeah. So the whole thing about promoting your book, I hear authors say when they come on the show, they get through the process of writing the book, it's published, they got a copy in their hand, and now it's like they think they're done, but that's only the beginning.
Oh man.
Right. So that finish line, versus we should say finish when you cross the finish, it says start. You're like, oh, it does. I thought I was done. So there's so much to do, right?
Yeah, writing it is finishing it, having your finished product, like quote finished product, it's not done. Nope. that is, I mean, look at bands, like they put an album out. Right. What do they do next after the album's out? Yeah, they tour.
Touring, right?
So the work just begins, and they put tons of blood, sweat, and tears into creating this album and perfecting it, and studio time, and record this instrument, then this instrument, and do all these tracks, and then get it mastered, and what tracks do we keep, which do we throw away? It's such a long process, and then it begins.
So yeah, I'm a musician as well. So one of my 7 podcasts, Mark, is my playlist podcast, where I have people come on and talk about music, whether they wrote the song or they just love the song. And we talk about that, and then we play the song in the podcast so you can actually hear the song. So just, hey, I've had you on Dad Space. You're here now. I'm just going to kind of cycle you through all my podcasts.
Right, that's fine. So, that's fine. Well, it's funny because I have a song that I did called Kai's Song about my little boy. And it's it's sort of this arena rock kind of song. What? So there we go.
Okay, so we're going to have to talk about that in the future as well. So that's cool. Talk a little bit about, from your perspective, how is it important for you as an author to hear back from your audience after they purchase the book through reviews on sites like Amazon or whatever? What do you do with that information? What does that mean to you as an author?
That's a good question. What do you do with that information? So first, to get it is you got to tell people that you want it. You have to ask people all the time, please leave a review. Please, if they text you or message you, like a friend or a family member, I love the book, blah, blah. And I'm like, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate that. Now, can you go tell Amazon that, like, here's the link, please, go leave this review. And a nice little tip is to, and I actually missed this tip. I have a different thing at the end of my book, but at the end of your ebook, you should put a little link to leave a review on Amazon. So it takes them immediately, right after they read the book, right to write a review, because now they're fired up. They just finished it. They're excited about it, or they hate it. I don't know. I mean, whichever it is, but you give them the option to go there and leave a review. So it's hugely important for a few reasons. Obviously, did what I write connect? Did it hit people where I wanted it to hit them? Did it make them think about the things I wanted them to think about? Is the message that I tried to deliver being delivered, and is it being understood, and is it being seen and heard? So, you're going to get that from those reviews and ask, but again, you got to ask people. I think a lot of times it's like a sales kind of thing. Like, people get really uncomfortable when they start, having to ask for things, but if you don't ask for anything, you're not going to get anything. Right. So, people aren't just going to like flock to your Amazon and, number one, buy your book. And then, even if they are doing that, they're not going to flock to just leave reviews, so you got to ask for those things. And then what you do with them. So there's, here's like a little marketing piece is you can screenshot that, you can create flyers that you can use for posts on social media, and you can use it to, if you want to run ads, you could do things like that, because it shows, you show your book, and then you show like 5-star review and like, what the review is. When you get, you can try to get higher profile people that are best-selling authors or are in a space that you're, working in, or that you're writing in, and get them to contribute a blurb. And now you've got some, you're using their name to put on your stuff. So, really, like I said, like, and you don't have to be like a master craftsman with like Photoshop or anything. I use Canva. Canva's great. Yeah. I suggest if you're on like a tight budget and you don't want to I'm a big fan of outsourcing a lot of things. But I tend not to outsource too much on this piece, because Canva is like literally incredible. I think it's like $12 a month for the pro version. Yeah. And I mean, all their templates, it's like you just put your pictures in and your words in, and it's done, so yeah, you could take screenshots of, these reviews and post it. And there's a lot you could do with it, and it gives you, what's that word? Social proof. It gives you that social proof. So when people go to look, they're like, oh, well, they're, this is legit. This is legitimate. It's, I think that's what we strive for as self-published authors, is like legitimacy. Yeah. And maybe we're kind of shy to admit that, or no, I just do this for the art, which is, that part is true too, like I said. But for those of us that maybe want to make it more of a career, then yeah, we're striving for a little bit of legitimacy.
So in legal terms, if we were in the courtroom right now, this would be me technically leading the witness, because I have up on my screen while we're chatting your book and your reviews, and I want to read a few.
Oh, thanks.
Some people have said, if that's okay. See what I did there?
Absolutely.
Kind of sets you up there a little bit.
Yeah, I like that.
All the things I'm reading, 5-star reviews, by the way. So Vicky A. Adams says, a great read. Loved every minute of reading. Check it out. Very well researched and so well written. Kudos to the author for this fantastic and wonderful read. That was Vicky. Thank you, Vicky. That's amazing. Let's do some more. I love these. Let's talk Woody. Maybe from Toy Story, I'm not sure. But Woody says, Mr. Craven has written an engaging and fresh look at fatherhood with heartful experiences that are relatable and real. A fine read, especially for new dads.
That's awesome.
See? Yeah. So I love hearing these, because this is coming from people that have bought the book. They love it. Nicole says, very inspirational, definitely a must read. Shannon says, couldn't put it down, inspirational from start to finish. So, like, that's
awesome.
That's got to mean something, right?
Yeah. And author? Like, it does. And like, there's nothing wrong with going back and like reading that and letting yourself feel good about it. Like, like, look at your accomplishment, and like, I'll do that. I'll go read over those. I'm like, man, that's so cool. Like, it's so cool that it's connecting with people. And I don't think that's an egotistical thing. I think it's just look at the fruit of your labor, look at what you're doing, look at what you've done, look at how it's impacting people. I think that's why, like, in my office, like, I have, well, the most important picture are the pictures of my little boy, Kai, obviously. Yeah. But, to this side of the wall, off screen, because it's not as important, but it's, it's like my, the degrees I got, like my master's and stuff. Like, sometimes I'll just look at it and I'll be like,
oh yeah, I did that.
Man, I did that. It's just like a nice mental reminder of like, okay, I can accomplish like pretty big tasks. I can do certain things, because especially as an achiever, I think you're always on to the next one. You're always, okay,
Right.
now I got to do this. And then I did this. And it's like, remember your wins. I think that's really important. Remember where you won so that you can keep on winning because it's possible. So if you're always looking at like the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and you didn't pay attention to any stuff, like you might move forward without realizing the strength that you already got. Like
Yeah.
you have to remember your wins. So I think that's a really, obviously that's separate of marketing, but it's just I think it's a self-improvement technique.
So take me into the elevator, Mark. The doors are shutting. I'm meeting you for the first time. I find out you're an author. I ask you about your book. In the time it takes us to go from the ground floor to the second floor and the doors open and we leave, what would you
Mhm.
tell me about your book in that short amount of time that would make me go, this is the book I need? Tell me about
Yeah.
Dad's Kiss Your Sons.
That's a good practice because that's very hard to do. So when go to write your description, which I actually outsourced. So, I'll get to that outsourcing important thing too. But yeah, when you try to describe your book in a really quick way, the elevator pitch to get people interested, it's an important practice. But I think what I would say is, yeah, if however it was brought up, like, yeah, I wrote this book and it hit number one bestseller in Amazon in several categories, which was really exciting. It's sort of my story into fatherhood, a lot of the trials that I went through and experienced, and the joys of fatherhood. But there's also a lot of science in it because my background is in biology, so I do a ton of research on developmental psychology, developmental biology, and there's a lot of self-improvement techniques in there as well to just help you become the dad you want to be, but also the science backing it up of what it is that you're doing to become that dad. So that's what the book's about.
And then go listen to Dad's Space because we talked a little bit more about the book there as well. So you can
Right.
go there
Yeah,
or
exactly.
check out the Living in the Next
Right.
Chapter
Or
podcast.
I
Right
could,
there. Yeah.
or the big thing that always gets people is I'm like, yeah, I didn't meet my dad till I was 22, and then I lived with him for 3 years. Great guy, paid for me to go to school, and then at 25, I found that he wasn't my real dad. And after we did a paternity test, and then I found out my real dad actually wrestled in the WWF in the 80s. So usually that makes people want to buy the book too.
And they're like, wait, what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
As a huge wrestling fan from the 80s, yeah,
Right.
that caught me in your bio. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
because I would go to Buffalo. I live in Canada. I live in Ontario, and I would drive
Mhm.
over to Buffalo, New York, and I went to watch WrestleMania.
Oh,
And so
nice.
you see like the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk and Randy Savage and all this, but they would have like Ultimate Warrior wrestle 3 times in one night. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and they would do all the cameras and stuff, and they would tell us like no flash photography. But as soon
Mhm.
as the wrestler would come to the stage, but they
Oh,
had these
yeah.
flashes that were hanging down from the ceiling to make it look like we were taking photos, but we weren't allowed to take photos. Right. And I'm like, oh, that's
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So,
Yeah.
and we had to do the intro twice because we weren't loud enough as an audience. So they cut everything and said, okay, let's do it all again. And we're like, okay,
Wow.
yeah. And we're doing the
Yeah.
clapping, right? I'm like, this is
Such a
television, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, TV. It's
There you
weird.
go. Anyway, so yeah, that's now I'm off from a wrestling thing. So that's amazing. Okay, so talk about the book then, Mark. Who is your target audience? Explain a little bit about what you had in mind. As far as who you were writing to, were you writing to a person or were you writing to capture your own thoughts and writing more for yourself in this?
I think both. And then I think when you're doing a book or you're doing a podcast or you're speaking or coaching, you always, one of the big things people always tell you to do is like niche down and, who's your specific readership that you're talking to and things like that. Because it's, people, you get lost in well, it's for everybody, and I mean, for my book, yeah, this because the story it's an inspirational story, it is powerful. So I really do believe a lot of people can take things from it. So a lot of my, it's called Dads Kiss Your Sons, but a ton of my readership are women, and they read the book and they're like, I'm obviously not a dad, but this was hugely impactful for me and hugely inspiring to me. So, when I was writing it, especially some of the stories, when I talk about my absolute fear of becoming a dad, that's definitely, directed in the messages for expectant dads that are just out of their mind terrified to know that they're not alone and that this fear isn't weird and to just sit through it long enough to come out on the other side and experience this love that words can't even hope to grasp. So it's, that's speaking to like the fatherlessness in the world, and fear is just such a liar that it, pushes people out, and it pushes dads out, and it makes them so scared that they just want to run and leave because they can't do it. So that part is definitely, for expectant dads, where it's like, no, just sit through this long enough to come on the other side and kiss that cute little face that is just gonna, pull your heart out of your chest. So, it was to them, but the book is, it's a hard, it's kind of a hard question to answer, because like I said, there's so much in it that so many can take away from it. That part is obviously specific to expectant dads, but the, broken childhood and, broken relationships, and just not thinking you're enough or you're qualified to do the thing that you want to do. And, coming through adversity, and, seeing yourself as more than, you are, seeing yourself better, and achieving better and doing better. That's for everybody.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the title of the book. How did you settle on that for the name of your book?
Yeah. And the book was actually initially called Chapter 7, because it was my seventh book. I actually went bankrupt, found Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
Wow.
So there was like, some play on the title, play on the words a little bit. And, I knew my story was powerful. I knew, again, not meeting my dad till I was 22, and then finding out my real dad was a wrestler. I knew the story was powerful. Singing in a metal band, playing, we did some pretty big things, and, dreams, and, all this stuff, and then becoming a dad, and like that being the greatest experience of my life. So I knew my story, I knew it was powerful. I knew there was a lot of stuff in it that could help people, but I didn't know what the overall message was. It's kind of like you write a great song. I mean, you feel like it's a great song, but you're like, well, what the hell's the title? Like,
Yeah.
what am I hoping to, and like, what's my theme? Like, why am I writing all these stories? Like, why am I talking about all these like storms I went through? Am I just trauma dumping? Am I just putting this out there? Like, look at how bad my life is, but I was able to do something. It just felt like kind of empty. I was like, I don't know why I'm writing this. And it was actually, a friend posted something on Facebook. I don't remember what their post was, but my comment on the post was, "Dads kiss your sons." So it must have been something about like being a loving father, the importance of that, something to that effect. And I said, "Dads kiss your sons," and it hit me like, a bolt of lightning. I was like, oh, that's the title of the book. Like, that's why I went through everything I went through, to come out on this side and to be the dad that I am to Kai, and to share that story. Oh, okay, now I got the title. Now it makes sense. And, dads kiss your sons. It's, even the day and age that we're in now, it's a bit jarring, because of this bravado, and this, what it means to be a man, and, this and that. So yeah, it's like, men need to feel okay with just, talking about their feelings, and talking about their fears, and talking about what scares them, and what makes them sad, and like, just being open, and allowing this love that you like can't even contain. And the only way you can kind of contain it is you just kiss this little face like 1,000 times in a day. Like, that needs to be encouraged and celebrated. And so yeah, that's where it came from, if that makes sense to anybody.
Yeah. And then the result, I guess, with Kai is his reaction to that love demonstrated to him from a
Yeah.
father figure.
Hmm.
Talk about that. How's that kind of playing out for Kai and how he grows up?
Oh man, he is like such a loving little dude. Well, he's almost 3, so he's past the 2.5 point. But yeah, he'll be 3 in August, and he's just, like I mean, from the moment that little dude was born, he just has had no say in the relentless barrage of kisses that he receives from me, and from his mom, and from, his nanny, and everybody. To the point now, it's so cool. Like, he'll, he's like a toddler, and he's like little. Yeah, I mean, he's still little, but he's like a kid now. He's not a baby.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the middle of like playing with toys or playing with his tablet or doing something, he'll just kind of stop and come over to me and give me like a big hug, or he'll give me a big, you know, wet kiss. And, you know, anytime I'm like, "Hi, can I have a kiss?" You know, he puckers his little lips and, you know, and he's just such a loving little dude. And he does that to me. He does it to his mom, his siblings, everybody. You know, he just goes up and hugs them. So I'm so that's one of the best things that I see in him is he is seeing that it's okay to physically represent how he's feeling, you know? And to him, like, that's just normal. It's normal to hug and it's normal to kiss and it's normal to, you know, let my daddy, like, you know, cuddle me and hold me while I'm watching TV or, you know, or playing a video game and he's just kissing me in the middle, like the whole time and kissing the top of my head. So he, you know, him finding himself naturally cradled in this, you know, love is just, man, it's just so important. And I say it's important, like you have to work at it, but that's the thing is like it's just so natural. Like I don't know what else I would be doing besides kissing him relentlessly,
Yeah.
you know, when I'm holding him. Like there's, I don't know, you don't, you kind of don't need to be told that if you allow yourself to be how you feel with that little one.
There's a moment in time, like for me, I have 3 grown children, and it would be quite awkward for me to go kiss my kids in public. They'd be like, "Come on, man, that's kind of creepy. What are you doing?"
Yeah,
So you have this window of time to demonstrate affection and love and build
right.
quality foundation for your kids
Yeah.
so they understand that kind of love. In
Mhm.
addition to the affection piece, what other things are included in kissing your kids and demonstrating love as a parent that's
Oh
from
yeah.
a scientific point of view helpful
Mhm.
for your children as they grow? Anything else that's part of it?
Yeah, well, scientifically speaking, directly to the kissing and hugging, and then I'll get to the next piece. You know what's going on? There's actually something called physiological synchrony, where the same neurotransmitters that are being released in your little one when they're being held and kissed and loved on, like oxytocin, which you know gets rid of cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone and neurotransmitter, so it decreases that. Oxytocin, like I said, comes in and it's we have serotonin. We have you know the good the good neurotransmitters and the good chemicals that help with a lot of things:
Yeah.
recovery, memory, just overall health state. You know, and so the thing, physiological synchrony. So not only is that being released in them when you're hugging and holding and kissing them, but it's actually being released in you as well. So you know you have these this dopamine creates like this cyclic experience where it's like, I mean, well, obviously that's why you have the issues that we have in the world also. But when you're again hugging, holding, and kissing your little one, you know, dopamine's being released, oxytocin's being released, cortisol's dropping, your blood pressure's dropping. You're just finding yourself in an overall healthful state just because you're loving on your little one. The aside from that, I mean, words, you know, words are just so powerful. There's life and death is in the tongue, you know?
Mm.
So over, you know, I speak a lot of life over Kai all the time, you know, from I love you to um you know, your daddy just loves you so much. I just hope you know how much daddy loves you. And you know, you're my best friend. You're my you're the best boy. And you know, I say a little sort of mantra over him every single night after his bath. So I give him his bath every night. And, you know, while he's on my lap and I'm drying him off, you know, I'll say, "You're strong, you're safe, you're secure, you're brave, you're blessed and highly favored. You're covered in the blood of Jesus. You're healthy, you're kind, and you're so, so loved. You were born into abundance. You were born into blessing. You are abundant and you are a blessing. And mommy and daddy love you so, so much. I love you. I love you. I love you." I say that to him every single night. And you know, hopefully I
Wow.
don't creep people out with the blood of Jesus thing. That just
Yeah.
means he died for our sins.
Yeah.
So yeah, I say that to him, like I said, every single night. I didn't read that from anything. Like that's not scripted. It's in the book, but yeah, I say that over him every single night. And he, you know, he just kind of looks at me and sometimes he'll smile, he'll kiss me. Sometimes he's whiny and crabby, and I still say it,
Yeah.
you know, because I believe in the life of the words that we speak over our children. So
That's a powerful lesson.
yeah.
A very powerful lesson. I think for any new parent out there to create those habits at the beginning
Oh yeah.
and that repetition and
Yeah.
showing up and demonstrating that on a consistent basis
Yep. And that little
Kids,
mantra,
yeah,
it grew. It grew over time, you know. So
yeah,
at first it was only just like, you're strong and you're safe and you're secure. And I love you so much. And then, you know, like I said, the more I'd say that, then I would kind of add a new piece, and then I'd add a new piece. And now it became what it is right now. So yeah, it's so important. And I've been saying that to him since he was, you know, newborn. I mean, they hear you say like, I love you. To them, it's just this weird,
blah, blah. Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
mumble, like, well, what's that mean? And then it's followed up with this like warm kiss, and they feel
yeah,
your like, you know, the bristles of your beard, maybe, or
yeah,
your
yeah,
your stubbly chin, and you know, they're like, oh, okay. When they say this strange mumbling that I hear, it's followed with this um, compassion, this love, this experience of, oh, I'm safe. I feel
yeah,
secure. And that's what's also happening too, is like when they feel that, the neural connections in their brains that are being established, because 90% of the brain is, like 90% of the structures of the brain are established in the first 3 years of life.
right,
So those structures are leaning more toward coping capacity and security, as opposed to insecurity. So when they feel that they're comforted and that they're loved and things like that, they have more, they're more secure, they're able to cope more with an internal stimuli happening, because there's a lot of change and growth happening as they're little, and then external, you know, when they face challenges. Kai is fearless, this, which to a fault. I mean,
yeah,
he is like fearless. He'll climb up my shoulders and do a backflip off him onto the bed. You know, he's a wild little dude, but I'd rather him be like that than, you know, insecure and scared.
yeah.
So,
It's amazing. What have you learned about yourself watching Kai and your parenting and you as a person?
um, hmm. I guess you know, one of the biggest lessons is I didn't need to have experienced the love that I'm now capable of giving.
Yeah,
You know, more specifically, I didn't need to experience the love of an earthly father to give my son a father's love. You know, it's all right there for
yeah.
you immediately. You don't realize that until your little one's in your arms, but it's there and it's natural, and you know, you're not disqualified. So,
Amazing. So I have a couple more things to ask you about, but before we do that, the website for the book and the website for your coaching, I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about that
mhm.
before we go towards wrapping up in a few minutes. But can you talk about the two websites, how they kind of work together, and what we find when we come to each? That'd be great.
Yeah, so if you just go to dadskissyoursons.com, I own both domains, so it actually just turns into successupahead.com.
Okay.
But
Okay.
you could just go to dadskissyoursons.com and it'll take you where everything is. Success Up Ahead was the coaching that I initially started like years ago. It was actually a like math and chemistry tutoring company I started
Oh,
in like 2015. But now you know, I kept the domain again, just dadskissyoursons.com, and I have, you know, all my blogs are on there, you know, info about, you know, the book, Dads Kiss Your Sons, the media, social media, connect with me on, you know, Instagram, Facebook, things like that. And my coaching is there too. So people can, you know, they can schedule coaching right there. The calendar is immediately there. They can either do a single session. I do have a little package on there. I think it's 4. You get one of them are free if you do the package. So yeah, and I just, you know, I help a lot of people with, you know, usually like the self-published authors, if they're, you know, trying to um maybe just first-time authors, and just getting the book written, and then, you know, doing a little bit of marketing. I keep my coaching like really reasonable, because the things I see out there what people are charging is just like kind of crazy.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just really ridiculous. And especially, you know, you can become an Amazon bestseller with just a few pretty easy techniques. And I saw that upwards of like $27,000 for the guarantee to be an
Wow.
Amazon bestseller. So after
Wow.
I read some articles and I watched some videos and I downloaded a $97 piece of software, and my book hit number 1 in at least I think 5 categories on Amazon. So
There you
I didn't spend $30,000. You know, I spent $97. So, and you know, so that's why, you know, I really kind of point people in the direction of what they need to do. You know, so I'm not doing all this stuff for you. I mean, if you really, you know, it depends on the client or what we're working on, but I'm just showing you exactly what you need to do, and you do it. You'll make it happen. So that's yeah, that's the coaching.
Amazing. And so what's it like to work with you when I meet with you for the first time? And walk me through the early times as people are thinking about, yeah, I want to do this, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure what it's going to feel like.
Yeah, I
What's it
mean,
going to be like?
we just talk. I want to get to know you a little bit, and what you think that you're interested in doing, and and then we just start. I mean,
Good.
it's not. It's like writing a book, especially if you're going self-publishing, and that's what I teach people on because I didn't go the traditional route. I went self-publishing, so that's what I help people with. I did do a book proposal for this book because I was going to go traditional publishing, but then I switched it up, changed my mind to go back into self. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a fairly simple like here's where we're going. Here's a nice little goal. You want to hit 300 words a day because that's about the same size as one page in like a normal novel sized book. So
Yeah.
it's a cool little goal and you'll tend to surpass it. So you'll feel good about that.
Good. Yeah.
And, just establishing, when are you going to write? What's, just kind of a timeline. But, it's to break it down really quick, it's like you bleed all over the page. You just write and you write and you write, and then you finish writing and then you clean up the blood a little bit. And that's by bringing in editing, things like that. And then once that's all done, okay, now you're ready for the cover, the interior design. And this for me was all outsourcing. I
Hmm.
didn't do any of that. That was, and I did crowdfunding for that. I did like a GoFundMe, things like that. So um, this book, I wanted it to be as perfect and as polished as it could be. So I outsourced everything except the writing.
Okay. Is there a possibility of an audiobook coming as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I just that is on the docket. I'm getting there.
Because with your smoky voice,
Oh man,
you would sell a billion copies, just
there we
telling
go.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
And
Appreciate
I
it.
love hearing an author read their own book because you know what you've written.
Mhm.
You're gonna hear it,
Right.
right?
Like
When an
where the
author.
accents are.
Yeah,
Like what you want to accentuate, and
right.
the parts that are. Yeah, just I agree. I like hearing when the actual author did it, except for The Alchemist. Jeremy Irons read that one, and that's great.
Mm.
So if it's either me or Jeremy Irons. If Jeremy Irons isn't free, I'll do it.
There you go. I love it. And if you talk about Kai, it's going to show that
Oh
smile that you're doing right
yeah,
now. That
yeah,
smile is going to show when you're recording. And in the
yeah.
studio, we know smile when you sing. You can
Oh
hear
yeah,
it. You can
oh
hear it.
yeah,
You can hear it.
absolutely. You feel it for sure.
Amazing. Okay, Mark, thank you so much for being on Living the Next Chapter. One last thing from your perspective, there's a new author listening to us right now. They're ready to take that step and go and do this. Any words of encouragement beyond what we've talked about that would just
Yeah,
get them
start.
to over that little hurdle of
Yeah,
starting?
just start writing.
Just do it.
Just write, and don't try your best not to think about the end product as much.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the comma splices. Don't worry about the run-on sentences. Don't worry about the grammar. Just get the words that are in your heart onto the page, bleed all over it, and then we'll
Yeah.
clean it up later.
Beautiful. Awesome. Again, Mark, the website.
Dadskissyoursons.com.
Beautiful. There you go, everyone. Go there. All the links in the show notes. And if you want a little bit more of Mark, we go deeper into Mark's dad's story over on Dad Space. So I love having these two podcasts together to share our audiences together and continue the conversation. So, Mark, we're a little behind the scenes for everybody listening. Mark has done 2 back-to-back recordings this morning. He's probably tired, but I really do appreciate the fact that you made time for both of these audiences today, Mark. It's amazing to have you on, and much love to Kai. And again, the smiling picture behind you says it all. What a cute kid. Such a
Thank you.
great kid. So thank you for sharing with us and being a part of the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you for showing up and doing all this work too. These the messages. It's important to get out. People need to hear this stuff because we need to hear people's stories. You have a beautiful
Yeah.
story, and the only reason you have a story is for it to be shared. So,
Mm,
I'm so thankful that you've created this platform for people to do just that, so that their story can hit and impact the hearts that it needs to impact.
it's amazing. Everyone go buy the book Dads Kiss Your Sons. Gift it. It's an amazing gift idea. How about that?
Father's Day
If
is
you
coming
know
up.
somebody, if
Father's
you
Day
know,
is coming
yeah,
up.
you know if someone's going to have a newborn in their home soon or something, another idea, there you go.
Yeah,
Send it out as a copy to that new parent and help them out.
absolutely.
It's awesome. Thank you, Mark, for being part of the podcast.
Thanks, Dave.
Awesome. Really appreciate you being here and being part of our podcast community. LivingTheNextChapter.com is our website. I have an offer for you as an author, if you're listening, and you're wanting to build your website for your book. I've had so many authors come on and they're struggling in this area. I'd love to help you. All of the websites that I built for my different podcasts, I have experience and I'd love to help you and get you up and running. I can help you with your domain purchase. I can help you with setting up your podcast, making it really simple. And if you love Canva, we can even set it up on Canva for you, and you can do all your own maintenance. You don't need to hire anybody. We'll help you get set up. So if that interests you as an author and you want a website for your book, let me know. We can do this. I can help you. LivingTheNextChapter.com is the website for the podcast. You can find me there. I'd love to help you. Reach out. Let me know if I can be of assistance in any way. And thank you again for listening to Living the Next Chapter. Today is where your book begins. Thanks for listening.